In the year 1206, a man knelt before a sea of warriors and rose as the ruler of every soul on the steppe. Within 70 years, his bloodline would rule from the Pacific Ocean to the gates of Vienna. This is the story of a boy who was left to die in the wild grass of Mongolia and grew into the most feared name in human history. Long before he was called Genghis Khan, he was simply Temujin, a name that meant man of iron. Born on the edge of nowhere, in a world where survival meant more than strength, it meant cunning, patience, and an unbreakable will to endure betrayal after betrayal. No one who saw him as a child could have imagined that this frightened boy, hunted through the wilderness, would one day reshape the map of the entire world. Temujin was born around the year 1162, gripping, legend says, a clot of blood in his tiny fist. His father, a minor tribal chief named Yesugei, named him after a rival warrior he had just defeated, a small act of pride that would echo through history. But the steppe showed no mercy to pride. When Temujin was only 9 years old, his father was poisoned by a rival clan during a meal meant to honor an old truce. Yesugei died slowly, in agony, far from home, and with him died his family's protection. Overnight, Temujin's own tribe abandoned his mother and her children, leaving them to starve on the open plain. No status, no warriors, no safety, just a widow, 5 children, and the vast indifferent grassland. They survived on roots, wild onions, and whatever small game they could catch. Temujin learned early that the world would not protect him. He would have to become something the world could not ignore. Then came the ultimate betrayal. Rival clansmen hunted down the family, captured the boy, and forced a wooden yoke around his neck, a device used to display and humiliate prisoners. He was paraded through camps like livestock. Most captives broke. Temujin did not. Under cover of darkness, he waited for the right moment and escaped, dragging the yoke through a river, then hiding in the reeds while search parties passed within feet of him. He was just a teenager, hunted, humiliated, alone. And yet, somewhere in that grass, something hardened inside him that would never soften again. Temujin's escape earned him something rare on the steppe, a reputation. Word spread of the boy who refused to break. Slowly, allies began to gather around him, men who saw in his stubbornness the seed of something greater. He married Borte, a woman chosen for him in childhood, and for a while, it seemed his life might finally settle into peace. But peace never lasted long in this world. Raiders from the Merkit tribe struck his camp and kidnapped Borte in the night, dragging her away as vengeance for an old grudge against his father. Temujin did not accept this loss. He called on powerful allies, his sworn brother Jamukha and the powerful Khwarezm Khan Togrul, and together they launched a devastating raid to bring her back. It worked, but the victory revealed something important. Temujin understood alliance, loyalty, and revenge better than almost anyone alive. For years, Temujin and Jamukha rode together as blood brothers, sharing victories and hardships, but ambition has a way of poisoning even the deepest friendships. As Temujin's followers grew and his influence expanded, the bond between the two men began to fracture. Eventually, it broke completely. Jamukha turned against him and the steppe split into rival camps. What followed was not a simple rivalry. It was a brutal, years-long struggle for the soul of Mongolia itself. Tribe against tribe, betrayal after betrayal, each side certain that only one of them could survive. One by one, the tribes fell. The Taichiud, the Tatars, the Kharait, and finally the Naiman. Temujin defeated not just armies, but entire ways of thinking. Where other chiefs rewarded loyalty based on bloodline, Temujin rewarded skill and loyalty alone, elevating shepherds and former slaves into commanders of thousands. He restructured his warriors into units of 10, 100, 1,000, and 10,000. A military machine unlike anything the steppe had ever seen, built not on tribal loyalty, but on absolute discipline and shared purpose. In 1206, at a great gathering on the banks of the Onan River, the surviving chiefs of Mongolia knelt before him. He was no longer merely Temujin. He was declared Genghis Khan, universal ruler, Oceanic Khan. the sovereign of every tribe on the steppe. For the first time in history, Mongolia was united. But for Genghis Khan, unification was never the destination. It was only the beginning. His eyes had already turned outward toward the great civilizations beyond the grassland, toward China, toward Persia, toward a world that had no idea what was coming for it. By the 1210s, Genghis Khan's armies had already broken the mighty Jin dynasty of northern China, using siege engines, captured engineers, and terrifying discipline to breach walls once thought impossible to fall. But it was what happened next that would turn the Mongol Empire from a regional power into the most feared force the world had ever known. Genghis Khan sent a peaceful trade caravan westward, toward the wealthy Khwarezmian Empire, hoping to open trade routes between two civilizations. It should have been a simple exchange of goods. Instead, a local governor accused the merchants of spying and executed every single one of them. When Genghis Khan sent envoys to demand an explanation, the Khwarezmian Shah did something almost unthinkable. He killed the lead envoy and sent the others back mutilated, shaved, and humiliated as a message of contempt. It was a message the Khan would never forgive. Genghis Khan gathered his armies, some historians estimate well over 100,000 men, and rode west with a single purpose: annihilation. City after city fell in ways the Islamic world had never witnessed. Otrar, the city where the massacre began, was destroyed so completely its governor was reportedly executed with molten silver poured into his eyes and ears. Bukhara surrendered without a fight, yet Genghis Khan still walked into its grand mosque and declared himself the punishment of God, sent for their sins. Samarkand, once one of the greatest cities on earth, was left in ruins, its population decimated, and Urgench, the Khwarezmian capital, suffered perhaps the cruelest fate of all. Flooded by diverted rivers after a brutal siege, its people slaughtered by the tens of thousands. Within just a few short years, one of the greatest empires of the Islamic world had been wiped almost entirely from the map. While Genghis Khan crushed the heart of the Khwarezmian Empire, he unleashed two of his greatest generals, Jebe and Subutai, on a reconnaissance mission unlike anything in military history, a raid that would carry them nearly 10,000 miles. They swept through Persia into the Caucasus Mountains, defeating kingdom after kingdom that had never even heard the name Mongol. They crossed frozen rivers, outmaneuvered vastly larger armies, and shattered a coalition of Russian princes at the Battle of the Kalka River. A battle so devastating it would be remembered in Russian chronicles for centuries. News of the Mongols began to spread through Europe and the Middle East like a plague of fear itself. Merchants whispered of an unstoppable force from the east. Kings prayed it would never reach their gates. Genghis Khan himself would not live to see the empire's full expansion. In 1227, during a campaign against the rebellious Tangut kingdom, he died, the exact cause lost to history, buried as deeply as the secret location of his own grave, hidden by design so that no enemy could ever desecrate it. But his death changed nothing about the momentum he had unleashed. His sons and grandsons would carry his armies further than he ever imagined. Into Russia, into Eastern Europe, into Persia, into China entirely. By the time the Mongol Empire reached its peak, it stretched across nearly 24 million square kilometers, the largest contiguous land empire the world has ever known. History remembers Genghis Khan first as a destroyer, and the death toll of his conquests, by some estimates, may have reshaped the population of the entire world. But his empire was not built on destruction alone. Under Mongol rule, the Silk Road flourished as never before. Merchants could travel from the Mediterranean to the Pacific Ocean under a single law, a single protection, a period historians now call the Pax Mongolica, the Mongol Peace. Genghis Khan established one of the first great postal relay systems in history, the Yam, allowing messages to travel thousands of miles in days rather than months. He promoted religious tolerance at a time when much of the world enforced faith by the sword. He created one of the first written legal codes for a nomadic people, the Yasa, binding even his own family to its laws. He was, in the same lifetime, one of history's greatest destroyers and one of its most transformative unifiers, a contradiction that historians still argue over to this day. Genghis Khan died believing his empire had only just begun. He was right. His descendants would rule from Korea to Hungary, from Siberia to the Indian subcontinent, an empire so vast it connected civilizations that had never known each other existed. He was born with nothing, abandoned, hunted, humiliated in a wooden yoke as a teenage boy, and yet he rose to become the architect of the largest contiguous empire the world has ever seen. Millions died in his conquest. Entire civilizations were reshaped, some erased, others transformed forever by the roads, trade, and connections he forced into existence. History rarely remembers its builders and its destroyers as the same man. But Genghis Khan was both, and the world we live in today, its trade routes, its connected cultures, its very map still carries the fingerprints of the boy who refused to die in the grass. If this story of ambition, betrayal, and conquest captivated you, make sure you subscribe for more cinematic journeys through history's most powerful empires. And in the comments, tell us, which conqueror, city, or civilization should we bring back to life next?